And now, as a reminder, what I will do is I will direct a question to individual candidates. Each candidate will get a chance to answer a question first, and then each candidate will then get a chance to address the question afterwards. So I will direct my first question to you, Vangie Williams. They have 2 minutes each to answer, up to 2 minutes to answer each question. And the first question is about strategy. So this district is considered a safe Republican district based on traditional turnout numbers. So what should Democrats do, and what would your campaign do to overcome any demographic or traditional challenges in a traditionally Republican district?
Interesting question coming from the only black woman in the room. As you know, Alabama was probably a political experiment that went totally wrong for the GOP and totally great for us. As a black woman, I can tell you this. Black women are motivated, but they're not enough to win this district. Prince William County, James City is predominantly Democrat. The Middle Peninsula and Northern Neck are not. But as a woman who's a black woman who's a moderate, I can tell you this. People are listening. When I go down the street, and some people have heard of me being called the Tea Party Whisperer, it's because I listen to people, not party. I know, as someone has recently called it Republicanese, don't even ask me, that's not a real word, but I can actually have a conversation with someone across the table or across the aisle that makes sense. My goal, excuse me, is to speak with everyone in this district, regardless of party, because I need those people to hear that I'm listening to them and that I'm going to go to Capitol Hill and I'm going to bring common sense regulation that is good for all people, not just some. How do we win this district? As someone called me the rainbow sneezing unicorn, I am going to go to Capitol Hill by Republicans noticing that I am going to make a difference. That's how we win. One person at a time, regardless of race, political affiliation, gender, that's how we win.
Thank you. So John, same question.
Could you repeat the question again?
Yes, so the question is, again, in the district, the challenging demographics of a traditionally Republican district, what strategies should Democrats pursue, and what your campaign pursue specifically to try to overcome those demographic challenges?
Okay, we start the clock over. Okay, the way I look at this race, and I definitely think that we can win it, is we have three groups. We have the old Confederacy, that 40% is not ever going to vote for me, Vangie, Ryan, or Edwin. We have the 40% who's our progressive base. They will always vote for one of us if they vote. They don't always vote, so we have to mobilize them. And then we have the people in the middle, that 20%, that we have to attract with logic, with common sense, with facts and figures, and an approach that works. For example, Edwin and I are both for single payer. Some people may think that single payer is socialized medicine or it's radical. Single payer is the way every other major industrialized democracy in the world provides health care to their people. They provide 100% coverage, and it costs half as much. So what is progressive or social or liberal about that? That's just common sense. I can say the same thing about climate change. You can say that climate change is radical. The only people who don't want to address climate change are the people who have a lot of oil in the ground or coal in the mountain. If we address climate change, it reduces our dependence on the Middle East. It reduces our cost structure because we're more efficient. It helps our environment, and it creates good paying jobs. So that's what we're going to do. That's how we're going to get to 20%. We're going to mobilize the 40% that's going to vote for one of us, and then we're going to get the other 20% with common sense, because Republicans believe the only tool they have is the marginal tax rate. They think their job is to lower taxes and then say no to everything else. We're better than that.
Thank you. Ryan.
Thank you very much. First of all, like I mentioned earlier, a little bit of my opening statement, I'm kind of fire tested in this. I've been doing this for just over 2 years now in Prince William County, and we've fought hard fights, and we know how to kind of take this battle down the road. One of the interesting things growing up in rural Appalachian town like I did in Cumberland, Maryland, in far western Maryland, if anybody's familiar with Maryland, when I started passing some policies in Prince William County schools of my progressive values, whether it be teacher pay increases, LGBT policies, those types of things. Certainly, I began to get attacked by Republicans in our county. And one of the most interesting things I found out was some of my hardcore Republican friends who have known me for a long time, who may still live in Cumberland or have moved around the country, the one thing they did was they defended me. They came in and said, I disagree with his politics, but for you to attack a man based on his character like you have, that's a wrong thing to do. Fighting the fights that I fought, I've had my home address posted online, and people telling me to come knock on my door where my children sleep. I've gone through these types of fires, and I've won these types of battles. It ultimately takes time, effort, energy, and experience to win this type of race. Who can beat Rob Whitman? Who has the experience to do this? I can go down to Matthews County and realize, which is the end of the road, or Gloucester County, kind of the end of the road as far as furthest from my house goes. This is actually kind of middle of the road for me here, right? I can go down there and say, you're right. We may disagree on pro-choice or pro-life, but why in the heck can't we dredge this creek? Why can't we get this done? Why can't we get people to work to run broadband across the district? Because ultimately, we're not going to agree on everything. Anybody here who's married knows that you've devoted your life to somebody, but you're certainly not going to agree with that person 100% of the time. We need to ultimately have someone with experience to go out and win this race and know how we can take a message throughout an entire very diverse district, because the message in Prince William County is very different than the message in Hanover County and very different in Matthews County, but they don't conflict, and we have to have someone with the time and energy and experience to go out and get that done. Thank you.
All right, so I think the first thing that we start by doing is we have to stop being Democratic apologists for everything that we do. We have to start being proud of the issues that we fight for, and we have to stand up and fight for them. I'll talk about the recent government shutdown. I think that Democrats are doing the right thing by taking a stand for things like the Children's Health Insurance Program and Dreamers. And then we kind of backed down because we were pressured a little bit. We have to stand proud for the issues that we stand for. I think single payer is one of the big ones for me. I think it will do a lot of good for this country. And if you look at a lot of progressive issues, a lot of them are things that people like. Broadband internet access, that should be a nonpartisan issue. That's one way that you can communicate to people who might not normally vote Democratic, but they know that if I have a plan to push broadband internet access into every home in America, that's like, hey, whether you're Republican or Democrat, you don't like slow internet. And I think that's a good one there too. My time in the Marine Corps, it trained me very well. I worked with a very diverse group of men and women from different backgrounds, different age groups, different parts of the country, different political backgrounds, but we had to come together every single day to accomplish very difficult and complex tasks. I had that experience doing that, and I think we have to take the same approach here. So I'll reiterate again, don't be Democratic apologists for your positions. Be proud and stand up and fight. And that's how you get people mobilized, because if somebody thinks that you're someone like Rob Whitman who's going to flip-flop on an issue, he was smart enough to vote no on the American Health Care Act the first go-around, but then he voted yes the second time. That's not what inspires people. Flip-flopping back and forth on your issues isn't going to inspire anybody. And I promise to be upfront about where I stand and let people know that. And I think, again, the progressive agenda that I have is something that a lot of people in theory will agree with. Thank you.